We are standing right at the edge of a massive industry-wide shift right now. I mean, for the last couple of years, we've basically just been talking to our AI, right? Well, that's changing. We are officially stepping into an era where the AI actually does the work for you. So today, we're going to contrast this grand, highly futuristic vision of autonomous AI agents with the very real and honestly sometimes messy physical bottlenecks happening out there in the real world.
Think about the generative AI we've all been using lately. It talks. You ask it to draft a quick paragraph, summarize a long PDF, maybe suggest an Excel formula, and boom, it gives you a response. But you are still very much in the driver's seat. Agentic AI, though, it does. You just tell it, hey, schedule a meeting and send the agenda from yesterday's spreadsheet, and it goes off and autonomously coordinates your apps behind the scenes. No asking for permission at every single little step.
Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella actually drew the battle lines for this new era back on June 4th, 2026 at their Build conference. He didn't just get up there and announce a cool new feature. No, he straight up declared that Copilot is evolving into an entirely new operating system. It's a bold vision, honestly, where the software observes what you're doing and just acts, shifting the whole burden of executing tasks from you right onto the machine.
Now, to actually pull off this grand vision, Microsoft laid out their Foundry platform across 3 distinct layers: build, deploy, and operate. Basically, they're promising developers they can build, safely deploy, and continuously run these really complex agents. In the build phase, you get frameworks and toolboxes to handle the messy stuff like authentication. Then, in deploy, these agents get their own isolated execution space, meaning they can run 24/7 in the background. And finally, operate introduces open telemetry tracing. You can think of this like a flight data recorder for your AI. It lets developers look right under the hood, see exactly where an agent got confused, and actually fix it. And this is where it gets kind of wild. The AI starts acting a lot less like a piece of software and way more like an actual employee. They call it procedural memory. Instead of just remembering your basic preferences, the agent actually learns a multi-step process once and then just repeats it. Say you coach a peer review agent to check test coverage first, flag dependencies, and then look for API changes. You don't have to re-instruct it again next week. It literally remembers how to do the work. Early testing on major AI benchmarks shows this gives a massive 7 to 14% jump in absolute success rates. That is absolutely huge. So alongside all this new architecture, Microsoft announced their in-house MII models. And let me tell you, this is a massive strategic shift. By rolling out models like MII1 for general reasoning, plus specialized visual and audio models, Microsoft is sending a loud, impartial signal to the rest of the industry. They want to own their AI stack. They want to reduce the reliance on OpenAI. They want to control the roadmap, the pricing, the whole shebang, rather than worrying about their main supplier handing the best tech over to a competitor. But hold on. Here is where all that futuristic hype hits a massive brick wall of reality. Just 3 days before that highly optimistic keynote, 14,000 users reported that Copilot was completely down, an availability disaster literally right before the biggest product announcement of the year. This number really forces us to pause, It highlights the glaring gap between this grand vision of always-on autonomous agents and the harsh physical reality of the infrastructure you actually need to run them.
If we look at the down detector data, this was not just a minor hiccup. A whopping 72% of those affected were just staring at a dead, grayed-out Copilot button in everyday apps like Word and Excel, totally unable to do their work. Another 18% were locked out entirely because of authentication failures, and 10% just got these degraded responses that eventually timed out into the dreaded spinning wheel of doom. It was a complete workflow halt.
And the irony here? It's incredible. The root cause wasn't some incredibly complex software bug. Actually, scratch that. It was the weather. A severe thunderstorm hit an East U.S. data center and knocked out both the primary power generators and the backup power supply. The network tried to route traffic somewhere else, but the secondary infrastructure just couldn't handle the massive load. It brilliantly illustrates that the bleeding edge of cloud AI is still entirely at the mercy of the physical elements: power grids, hardware limits, and, literally, the rain. And that physical vulnerability brings us to a stark financial reality. Right now, only 3.3% of Microsoft's addressable enterprise base is actually paying that $30 per user monthly fee for Copilot. Why so low? Because executives are doing the math. They're trying to figure out if the tool actually justifies the cost. I mean, if a simple sidebar assistant goes down because of a thunderstorm, how on earth can businesses trust a fully autonomous system to run their critical day-to-day operations?
Which brings us perfectly to what industry analysts are calling the trust gap. The stakes are just so much higher now. If a normal chatbot goes down, the failure mode is, well, minor. You don't get your summary draft, you sigh, you type out the email yourself, and life goes on. But if an autonomous agent fails mid-task, say it misreads a database and fires off incorrect calendar invites to your top clients, that is no longer just an inconvenience. That is active business harm. And this introduces a very sharp, no-nonsense perspective from startup operator Violetta Bonenkamp, sometimes known out there as the mean CEO. She hits the nail on the head here, pointing out something absolutely critical. She says, human in the loop is not a slogan, it is a survival rule. Basically, if you are letting your shiny new AI agent send out contracts, alter customer records, or make financial commitments without a human looking it over, you aren't being advanced, you're just being careless.
So where do we absolutely draw the line? The industry analysis is pretty clear on what high-risk deployments to avoid if you want to dodge severe legal and brand damage. No unsupervised legal drafting, definitely no autonomous financial commitments. I mean, imagine the sheer PR nightmare of an agent firing off an unreviewed, tone-deaf tweet during a crisis, or an HR bot systematically rejecting perfect candidates because of a bad prompt. In fields like healthcare, law, or retail, the most successful tools solve very narrow tasks exceptionally well. They are not just generic bots running wild. Okay, so as a business leader, how do you actually navigate this safely? The most grounded advice right now is to follow a pragmatic playbook. Don't chase the sci-fi hype of giving AI total control. Start simple. First, pick just one painful, narrow workflow, maybe something like lead qualification. Second, map out the current human steps in plain language. Third, choose the smallest, most efficient AI model to get that specific job done, rather than burning cash on some massive overkill model. And fourth, always keep a human finger on the approve button. Never remove that human audit trail.
Ultimately, we are standing at a fascinating crossroads right now. This technology is racing forward, moving from software that just talks to us to software that actually does the heavy lifting. But with thunderstorms literally taking out data centers and the massively high stakes of unchecked errors, well, you have to ask yourself, are you truly ready to let the AI take the wheel entirely? Or is it maybe a bit safer to keep your hands firmly on the controls for now?